Floating in a sea of misinformation, outright lies, blatant propaganda, and institutionalized indoctrination, we aim to see the world as it really is. We are flipping the pyramid.
Well, welcome along. This is flippingthepyramid.co.uk, and this is our roundtable discussion, which we're having on this Friday evening, and this will go out live as podcast or listen to directly on the website. So we have in the roundtable tonight, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us, and we're all going to be discussing a couple of subjects. We're going to be discussing first of all, I think we're going to discuss flipping the pyramid, what we're about, and why this has come to be, and a little bit about us. And we're also going to be talking after that about the 2012 phenomenon. So stand by, and I will see who wants to talk first. If anybody wants to kick us off with flipping the pyramid, I think I'll go maybe to Cookie.
Yes, flipping the pyramid. What does flipping the pyramid represent? Well, of course, you've got the little bit of text that's on the about page, and he's repeated on a few other places on the site as well, which nicely, I think, encapsulates the kind of ideas we're talking about. But just to expand on that and sort of give something of a background of reasoning of why we ended up here doing this and doing what we're doing now. I've often talked before, if you haven't heard me, we will get round to doing other broadcasts that I'll rebroadcast stuff I've done before and stuff that others here have done before. We've often talked about the pyramid as the hierarchical system that we're all living within, the system that is enforced upon you from birth, that wants you to be a good little worker, a good little slave, a good little cog in the machine. And that principle is based on that typically pyramidal hierarchy. There's a small bunch of people at the top and a whole load of the rest of us at the bottom that get stomped on and lose out to those people who are sat at the top. And this is not just about being, how should we put it, jealous of those people that have success. Now, it goes far beyond that, I'm afraid. This is more about the entire paradigm of that system that we have lived within for however many millennia, that has become so ingrained that, classically people talk about waking up and becoming aware of what's going on in the system for what it is and how nasty and unpleasant it is. And the principle of flipping it is exactly what it sounds like, turning that pyramid on its head. And that's not just to imply that we want to have some kind of mass democracy type effect. Again, it goes a bit beyond that, I feel, certainly from my point of view. It's that flipping the whole paradigm of that hierarchical system on its head. Shaking it up, seeing what happens when you do start to flip pyramids. You start seeing that structure become much more horizontal. It's a word that's been used a lot over recent years, but I think it does have a good valid point of definition of the kind of things that people are talking about. We're sick and tired of living within a enforced debt slave system that basically just abuses people, consumes their lives to fund the greed and narcissism of a small few well-placed people who control the majority, if not all of the power, the wealth, the resources, all that kind of stuff. I think if you're listening to this kind of broadcast, you're probably somewhat aware of those kind of things already. So, yes, from my point of view, just trying to put across what I view as just literally the meaning of flipping the pyramid, and something we try to get across to people is this is most definitely a group effort, a community effort. Whatever community you find yourself part of. You're part of several different kinds of communities, several different kinds of circles of groups that you move within, and it's that community effect that I feel is one of the greatest effects that we can have against the system, against that pyramidal structure. You can't beat it down with force. It's too well entrenched, it's too strong, it's too powerful. But you can cause it to fall apart by altering the way you interact with it, if you interact with it at all. Interact with the community you live within and the people you live around and care for, etc. And the pyramid then becomes somewhat nonsensical. It becomes the amorphous meme that it really is, because that's all it is, really. It's in your head more than anywhere else. Other than those people that walk around in uniforms armed with weapons who are told to tell you what to do by the people who tell them what to do. Other than that, the majority of it is mental slavery. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, as the great Bob Marley told us. Well, shared with us, I should say, rather than told us. Okay, I think, in my usual fashion, I've talked enough already. So I'll let somebody else give their perspective of what they feel it means to them. Who's up next? Who wants to say something next? Put your hands up. Don't all rush at once.
Anybody else want to add to that? What Cookies just said? I'd just like to add as well. It's interesting that the websites, more of these sorts of things are happening now, where people are moving away from the mainstream websites like Facebook, YouTube. We've seen YouTube become their tube, these are places where like-minded people, like you say, will form these groups and will begin to, start to really grow numbers. But yeah, does anyone else want to say anything about flipping the pyramid? Nick? Yeah.
I was going to second what you just said there about if everything else is being watched, being on an independent server away from all that, not sharing details of anyone that joins, or being completely independent is a better way to go. If there are lots more sites set up like this, then they'll have just more trouble in shutting us down. They might get a few, but they might not get us all.
Yeah, decentralisation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that was really the driving force behind the site, was for us to have a place that, as well as we can, kind of pull our news resources and all the links that we find during the day, but to have a place where we can build a community and discuss these things away from, let's be honest, the dross of face ache and their tube.
Yes.
And to have a focus, and to build it with a community focus. There's no one in charge. There was no one person that decided how the site would go, and that will continue to be the case. And it's just a meeting place, for people to come and discuss it, and to learn from each other, and see where it goes.
And hopefully, we're providing links or actual files of information, video clips, stuff that hopefully will be, if not at least inspirational, it will certainly be informative for people if they're looking for, that kind of alternative information or stuff that's just not manipulated by the mainstream, not overly dominated by that, kind of control of what you are and are not allowed to see and look at and talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's we kind of treat people like the adults they are, and not the children the mainstream would like to think you are, would certainly treat you as. And so you can come, discuss real issues, evidence-based, so we're not going off on wild tangents. Like I say, have a reasonable conversation and hopefully, try and work out what the hell's going on.
What do you think of the actual definition of flipping the pyramid? What just to try and keep sort of on topic of that first question to start with, because we can talk a bit more about the the website and the kind of ideas people have got for it and what we'd like to see happen with it, stuff like that in a
Sure.
bit. All I wanted to do first was sort of address that. How do people feel? What is your perspective of the pyramid and what we're setting out to do here? You know, more of that question at the moment first.
I think the idea of flipping a pyramid, when you first look at it, if you ever decide to flip a pyramid over, it looks like an impossible task because it's so wide at the bottom. But when you understand that all those people aren't trapped at the bottom and they're free to make their own decision, then they can all withdraw their support from the bottom. And each row that gets the information and withdraws their support from the bottom, that pyramid becomes smaller and smaller until everybody knows what's going on and there's no people controlling it for their own greedy ends. I'm not denying that a society needs structure, but it doesn't need a corrupt structure based on lining people's pockets and keeping them away from being us and keeping them safe in their ivory tower as we have to slave and get blown up in some countries and just get wiped out because they want the minerals from under where we stand. As the idea of the pyramid being wide at the bottom seems to be a big burden when you first look at it, but when you realise that all those people eventually will be helping you, you know, and the more they get involved, the more people are helping flip the pyramid, and then flipping the pyramid become a very easy task.
Yeah, that's well said, mate. Yeah.
For me, it's kind of like to flip the pyramid is to kind of to be the master. Do you know what I mean? To, you know, of your own fate, as it were.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And just take the personal responsibility. You don't need to be told. You know, if you sit down and think, and you think you're honest with yourself, do you know what I mean? You know how to live, and you know how to treat people. You don't need someone interfering, telling you how they want you to live, not what's best for you, just how they want it to be.
And if you don't, we'll charge you money.
Yeah.
Yep. If you don't come to that realization for yourself, somebody else will tell you they can do it for you and then charge you for the privilege. It is that question of, well, for me, it's like sharing with people what you find out for what you feel is your own self-realization, and in that way you're offering them I was going to say tools, maybe that's a bit too much of a strong word in that respect, but you're offering them something that hopefully will inspire them for their own self-realization and self-empowerment, such that they become more able to see that perspective of the pyramid is not actually required, that middleman is not actually required. You know, we could get into talking about being sovereign and the kind of sovereign movement and anarchism and stuff like that as well. Yes, I think, you know, that certainly from my point of view, there are those kind of perspectives you can talk about. But really for me, that core thing was the flipping the pyramid. Yeah, it sounds, you know, in a simple descriptive sense, it sounds like you're trying to turn the pyramid on itself and make yourself master of other people. You know, you want to be in the position that those at the top are in, but that's not, when you give it a bit of consideration, that's not really what it means, is it? Because once you flip that metaphorical pyramid, it's not a real pyramid. You know, you're not talking about building an upside down pyramid. You're talking about that paradigm, that mental paradigm of having people above you who tell you what to do. Yeah, that, to me, you have to flip that whole paradigm and come to the realization that you don't need those people there telling you what to do. If, as Red Eye Jedi has said, if you can have that honesty with yourself, and of course, you know, as I've talked about a lot before, that kind of compassion and empathy with other people, to realise that, look, we're all in a very, very similar boat here. We're all trying to get to grips with what is going on and what we're doing and what part do we have to play in all this stuff that's going on. And it is that self-empowerment, that self-realization that you don't need somebody else telling you that you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. You must obey my orders. You must live the way I tell you. And, oh, by the way, you have to pay me for the privilege.
So I suppose on another level, flipping the pyramid in simpler terms is just like flipping it off, giving it the finger,
Yeah.
not playing, I'm not taking part, and in whichever way you can pull yourself away from it, I certainly try to do that, not interact with it in as many ways as possible.
And as somebody has pointed out in the text, just to let listeners know, we do a couple of the members who are in this group at the moment are only in as text because they're, for various reasons, not able to link into the voice chat at the moment. Stop the Rot is pointing out that the people at the bottom are the most powerful in real terms because you have the sheer strength in numbers. Although, yeah, I know, again, there's big debate and argument about that kind of aspect of the mass of the numbers turning against the smaller numbers of those in charge. But again, please don't simplify it. And I'm not suggesting that Stop the Rot is simplifying it. I think I know him well enough to get the gist of his meaning in that respect. Don't oversimplify it to mean that you are reversing the paradigm of you become the master over those smaller groups of people. No, not at all. It's refuting or turning away from or just dispelling that paradigm that kind of system is needed in the first place. It's not. Humanity has lived in other ways before. We've lived without this kind of empire, imperialistic structure that we're stuck in. So, maybe it's about time. Certainly, this is my opinion, my perspective. Maybe it's about time we tried something different. This system doesn't seem to be beneficial for the mass of the existence that we're existing in. I could get all esoteric, but I'll try not to waffle too much. Stick to the point.
Yeah, I think for me personally, flipping the pyramid is, the pyramid itself as the symbol of a pyramid has always been a fascinating symbol anyway for me. When, sort of you think of the power of the pyramid in its spiritual sense and its energy sense, it's quite a powerful tool, which I think, it's been proven by science that energy is created within the pyramid. That's always fascinated me, but the actual symbolic meaning of what we're about and the website and who we are as why we've all come together, for sure, I do agree. It's just like sticking two fingers up and saying, this is enough, let's flip this thing and let's just move on and get something better. Because we're all becoming at that what's called, that critical point now. It's building very, very quickly. We've seen people, more people waking up, more people becoming aware and asking questions and probing and not, listening to the propaganda, realizing the mainstream media is just that, propaganda. And, I think that's where, this site and how we build this is what it's all about. And, we are making, inroads into getting information out there. And, I'm pretty sure we'll be very successful because I think lots and lots of people are looking for somewhere. They're fed up with YouTube. They're fed up with Facebook and, they're lost. Maybe they've become awake themselves and they're quite lonely. Some people, they do get quite cut off and their friends have all fallen away because of their views, because they have more, of an understanding, a greater awareness, and their friends still living in like a concrete box or whatever, and they can't see, what they're on about, and you end up feeling a little bit isolated. So when you go online and you find places like this or sites that actually you can link with and think, yep, that's it. And if you go to the site like we've been talking about, there's plenty of information, videos and all sorts, which I've seen. And, you've certainly got a good selection of all sorts in there. And it is about putting pieces together and coming up with a bigger picture. Because there's a lot of information out there. And it's putting it into one place and having, good, accurate information, which is what this site offers.
I like to view it as a nexus node. In many ways I could describe how we're living within a network system, and I'm not just referencing the physical network that is the internet, the cables and wires and computers that are all linked together, etc. But I think I have talked about before the social networks that we all live within, all that kind of structure. There's several layers of those kind of networks that we live within. And those nexus nodes are the points where groups or information, you think of it as like streams of information, come together. So you can, from that point, access a lot more that you may find interesting or useful for yourself, or, to pass on, to share with others as well. Because that's something else I think, I'm not sure if anybody's mentioned yet. A lot of this whole process, I feel, is helped along its way by the fact that we are sharing with each other. We're operating as a community in respects of sharing with each other what we found out, what we've learned, what we think about, because a lot of what's happened to us has been due to the control and manipulation of information, of knowledge. So the sort of, I feel it's an almost natural effect. Again, we could go off into esoteric arguments about why it's happening and prophecies and all the other kind of, good gossipy conspiracy porn type stuff. Yeah. But the point is, it is actually occurring. No matter how much the mainstream media likes to continue doing what they're doing and have been doing for quite a long time, the distraction, the bullshit, the deliberate either manipulation or just corruption of information or just omission of information, we are now seeing an effect that is almost like the natural fight back effect of an organism, like your white blood cells do when they come out to fight an illness that you're suffering from. In the same way, we're now witnessing and part of a similar effect in that social aspect of people are starting to look at each other and go, this ain't right. What's going on here? What have you found out? Let's share information. Let's pool our information. Let's get together and, put all this on the table and see what we can see then. And for me, the growth of these kind of networks, whether they be existent on the internet or whether they be existent in real life, you go to meetings or you share newsletters or you share DVDs with each other, all these kind of things I would encourage, definitely, because it's that coming together to share this kind of information and to help others have access to it. Is helping ourselves a lot. It's I feel it's one of the main things that we can do as proactive against the system, even though we're not, directly confronting it. I know a lot of people write articles and news and stuff like that directly confronts it and, as Red called it earlier, sort of reveals the belly of the beast. But we're not revealing it so that then we can plunge a magic sword into it. No, not at all. We're revealing it so everybody can realise it and realise that it's just, it doesn't work. It's unpleasant. It's nasty. Let's just walk away from it. Let's just leave it to starve to death. Starve the beast.
I would just wanted to say something about, although we are a group, want to make it quite clear that we're not affiliated with any other group, or we're not following Anonymous and we're not following the Black Bloc, and we're nothing to do with an affiliated set-up group, as many of us probably feel that those groups are either set up for an agenda. We are independent. We're all people that have been doing our own research for many years. Obviously, the young guys here haven't been doing it for as many years. They've been busy with schoolwork and other stuff. But some of us are long-term into this, been looking at the government and, policies that they've brought in over the years. that we can now look back on. So just wanted to point out that we're not associated or affiliated with any other group that you might have heard of on the internet.
And I don't even think, I just to clarify further, that I wouldn't even say that we would call ourselves a group. Do you know what I mean? We're not flipping the pyramid. Doesn't have membership cards or whatnot. Do you know what I mean? We're just a group of individuals that were doing our thing individually, and that came to FTP as a group thing to share it and further the knowledge.
It's a coming together of like minds, isn't it? That's
absolutely. We're all
towards,
regular folks. Some of us work, some of us study. We're not journalists. We're not media people.
No.
We're just regular folks.
Can I expand on it a little bit in one sense as well? We're not looking at this from any particular kind of ideology or ism. We're not talking about collectivism, commonly straw-manned into you're just communists, or you're just socialists, or whatever other kind of ist or ism labels people want to throw around. One of the core things is trying to get away from those kind of labels and restrictions and boxes that the system likes to stuff you into. So we're not, in that respect, we are not a group, as said, with membership cards and an agenda of some kind. No, not at all. We are most definitely a very loosely knit group of individuals who are all coming from somewhat equal point of view of how they're looking at this effect, however you want to call it. The other thing I'd add as well is, even though we're not affiliated with any particular one group or ideology or whatever, that's not to say we're not networking with other people and with other groups. That's something that we want to do. We want to be again passing on that network node effect of, we've come together in this particular network node, and we're doing what we do here, but at the same time, that is, by its very way of being, is sort of linked into what everybody else is doing, what all the other groups of people and individuals out there are doing. But it's just sort of, I just wanted to sort of put that flag up of, please don't allow your perspective of what's going on here to be pushed into a box of, they're just socialists, they're just communists, they believe in this, that, or the other ideology, or they're followers of Hey Nonny Moose or Occupy or whatever other,
For me, that's probably the single biggest thing, or the most important thing to me, or the thing that I value most about the community so far, is that there are as many opinions as there are people. We don't all agree, far from it, but we get along because there is a common understanding that there's something bigger at play than just our little disagreements.
We can decide on the colour of the curtains once we've got rid of the enemy at the door. That's the way I view it.
Yeah. You mean the rat infestation?
Tell me to shut up if I'm adding way too much into this, because I talk a lot once you get going. It's not to say that groups who want to concentrate on one particular issue are wrong, in my opinion. No, I don't want to get into that. Again, I feel it's a straw man trap to start getting into that kind of argument. Groups do what they feel is right for them to be doing. We feel that it's more appropriate for us to approach what we feel are the more holistic issues, the bigger issues, not just whether a particular local council has done this, that, or the other. That's the kind of thing we do want to include, but not to fixate on just that, or not to address just one particular issue from that, sort of, only talking about tax problems, or only talking about the economy, or only talking about the military, stuff like that. It's that, again, I feel has been part of the problem of the system distracts you into arguing over the petty little details
But they've
while
stuck
they're
you in
busy.
the corner, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? They've got you looking at the corner of the room when everything's happening in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, they've put you in your little box, and yeah. Sorry, I interrupted your flow there.
No, it's all right. Carry on.
Yeah, but that's it really. So I guess what we try to do is between us to cover as much of it as we can, because they're not isolated incidents. They're not.
No, definitely
there
not.
is definitely a wider, I don't know, to call it a plan, not so sure, but an agenda. You know, there's something at work. There are bigger things happening than what happens in your local community. The local community is where you're feeling it because it's where they implement it, but it's something of much wider it's perspective. It's all encompassing.
It's
we
where
have
the
to view it that
meets,
way, you know, just to understand it, I guess.
It's where the knife meets flesh.
Yeah.
That's what. That's why I feel, more recently, in recent years, people have seen a growth of this effect, a growth of social unrest. Let's put it that way, to use one of the, common mainstream terminologies. Social unrest has increased all across the world, and it is all across the world. It's not just one particular country having an uprising. No, people are feeling this all across the world. And when people start to see the effects hit them in day-to-day lives, in their daily, like you say, your local community, when you go to work, the people you interact with on a day-to-day basis, you see these effects starting to appear in front of you. It's making more people inclined to think, what the hell's going on here? This just isn't right. There's something wrong here.
Because the reality doesn't correspond with the rhetoric, does it? And it's becoming more apparent.
The American dream is falling apart.
Yeah.
As Carlin said, it's called the American dream because you've got to be asleep to believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should link some of his stuff up into a little folder or something. Maybe I can add some to my humour section.
I'm sure his last words were something like, "Thank God for that." They must have been.
There's something else I'd like to add in from a personal point of view. We will, or I feel certainly that this is the general sort of perspective on it. We will try and stick to, or at least concentrate on, those things that are evidential, that we can point at and people can see for themselves and they can see the evidence available. It's not just pie in the sky stuff that we want to look at. Try and put it that way. There is a lot of things that we can talk about, that we can spend our entire lives talking and debating and arguing about, that are so esoteric and out there that, it might be possible, but you can't prove it one way or the other. So, let's again concentrate on the fact that they've pushed us into a corner while they're busy raping us and the planet. So in that respect, from a personal point of view, as you know I do, I will often talk about things like spirituality and God and all these kind of odd perspective possibilities, yes, but I always try and bring it back down to how does it relate to your day-to-day life?
Yes,
what benefit can it actually give you to enable you to be self-empowered, to be aware, to be hopefully working? And I don't mean this as some kind of job, because when you come to these kind of realizations, it's not a job. You will understand that when it starts to click into place, where it's not a job at all. It's just existence. We can have all these kind of discussions, but let's try and concentrate them onto how we can make use of them in a practical fashion, in a pragmatic way, so that we can be flipping the pyramid and not just sat around it talking about, I wonder what the air smells like up there. No.
Yeah, it's about finding the balance, and you've got to understand there is a sort of energetic level that we exist from, I think, and when you get people who get too heavily into the spiritual esoteric side, they become lost up their own bum to a degree, and they're not actually helping anybody. They're just lost, and they call it holier than now and judging people and all that stuff. I've seen that happen. You have to come back into yourself, get a balance, and we have to sort this out. This is what we need to do. We have to sort out this. It's not that will come in time because we're all going to die. So we'll all find out. But we have to sort this out. We have to deal with this shit because it's a big pile of doo-doo and it needs to be sorted.
It's growing by the day, isn't it? It's not
and
getting
it
any
is,
smaller.
yeah. The debt
quicker and quicker with each day.
Yeah, the economies are failing right across the globe. We've got more poor people, famine, hunger. We've got greedy bankers. We've got all sorts of ruling elites at the top telling us, and we're brainwashed, and we're just we need to stop and get a grip. And this is the balance we need to find. We don't want to go too far political. We don't want to go too far spiritual. It's about putting pieces together and coming to that that point where you go, right, you know who you are, your sentience on this planet, so to speak. You're a powerful being, and you, as the guy says in the film, was it Broad? He sticks his head out the window. I'm not taking any more. I've had enough. Network, the movie, and that's the point where I think many more people are getting to now, and they'll, in a sense, they'll gravitate maybe towards internets and that kind of information, and they'll hopefully find sites like ours, because these are the places that if you're meant to find us, you'll find us, and obviously that's how we've all come together. We didn't know each other 2 years ago, 18 months ago, but now through the internet and we've all met as well, most of us, so and we do speak on video as well, so we can see each other's faces and things. Nice to put a name to face to a name, so to speak. So it's all good, but it's finding that balance. That's the key, the balance. If you're not balanced, or you're not get it, you can go too far. We see these other yeah, and they go too far. They're too fearful.
Well, you get the extremes, don't you?
Yeah, well, I was going to say you get the people who just promote fear. That's all they promote, and they're actually doing themselves over because their message actually is quite good. It's like, wake up, this is what's happening, but at the same time, they're promoting so much fear with that. It has the complete opposite effect.
They just lock people down into another box of being afraid to do anything, or being afraid that they have to do a particular thing, like buy tins of spam and put them in the cupboard and just sit and wait with a shotgun for the end of the world to come.
Right, Jack.
Yeah, or it goes the other way and they turn into some sort of violent pseudo-anarchist where they go and smash up McDonald's,
Yes.
And then you interact with the state, you end up locked up, and it's game over,
We could lead that into that the 2012 question, if you want to, if you're happy with what's been said so far about flipping the pyramid.co.uk, the website, etc. I think the only other question is anything anyone wants to say about where you would like to see it go, what you'd like to see happen with it, plans and ideas of things to do, stuff like that.
Nothing too long, but I think just to point out that the site is new. We've only been live a few weeks. It is kind of version 1. There are enhancements and changes in the works. So yeah, come and join us, see it grow, help us grow.
Right. Can I add in that respect? I mean, I know what I said earlier about ideologies and isms and stuff like that. It's not to say you should not think from certain perspectives and you're not allowed to use certain words and all that kind of double speak control bullshit. No, not at all. But I was going to add that a lot of what I tend to do, the attitude I try to work from, or the perspective I try to work from, is more readily defined as anarchism. Just simply in that respect of voluntarism, voluntary anarchism. You can be sovereign to yourself and controlling your own destiny once you start coming to the realization that you can make the choices about things for yourself. And in that respect, please put aside the cynical protestations of there's stuff going on in the world that affects what you do and you can't control everything. I'm very well aware of that, believe me. But my point is where you choose to interact and how you interact, how you use and expend your energy in what is going on here is up to you. And by your choices and what you do, you are part of what is going on. this is why for me, it's like, I want to be part of something like what we're doing here, rather than, for example, just going off into the countryside somewhere and, just living on my own, being self-sufficient and withdrawing myself from the system in that fashion. I think I've said this before. It's like, yeah, it's a thing you can do. It helps, but you are in effect just walking away from everybody else. You are being somewhat selfish for your own gain and need. But there is, for me, a certain amount of that kind of, I'll use the words tentatively, ideology. I find a lot more value in that kind of perspective that anarchism over the years has been talked about. Like, there's loads of information out there that you can dive into and look at and read and research and, look at what other people have written and said about it over the years. But in the long run, all the sort of reading of history, etc., that I've done again and again and again, when communities start taking the power back onto themselves and saying to the rulers, no, sod you, mate, you can do your own farming and feed yourself and your own family because that's what we have to do, get on with it. Lo and behold, the system has come along and stomped all over it as fast as it could, because it knows that there's true power there to compete against it. And again, please don't get into the whole us and them thing and all that. No, not at all. But the system, the machine, the agenda of this meme that is causing us so much horrible effect on the planet and our existences, that is frightened by you being self-empowered, by you making your own choices, by you being free and voluntary with where you invest your energy, your intent and your action. So in that respect, for me, there is that sort of level of the involvement is up to you, and you can get involved to whatever degree and in whatever way that you wish to. If you are only willing to, sort of read information, you don't want to actually step into any kind of limelight, you just want to absorb the information and try and make use of it for your own well-being, to help yourself, your family, your own community where you are, that's fair enough. You do that. If you're interested in, joining up with other groups and you want to write articles, you want to make videos, you want to make music, you want to go out and do street activism, you want to do proactive non-compliance protests, whatever, that is up to you. This, again, for me, is very core and intrinsic to what is the difference of what is going on here. Up until now, we've been stuck within a system where somebody else is telling you that they have power over you and you have to do things the way they tell you. Mm-hmm. And now you've got an opportunity to decide for yourself, and by your intent and your actions and your choices, we are creating the change we want to see in the world. I know it's cheesy, I'm stealing that quote and re-paraphrasing it, but that is what, to me, to sort of circle it back round to what we started talking about, that really is a core essence of what it means to say we are flipping the pyramid. You're turning away from that paradigm of giving your free will choice away to somebody else, and you're claiming it back for yourself. Have I just flowed all over people?
I'm
wiping myself off as we speak.
I was just about to say the same thing.
So, sort of leading off from a bit where towards the end there you were saying about the system of control and whatnot. So, does that extend to 2012? How much manipulation is there of the 2012 phenomena that is the Mayan calendar and the change of the age and the shift in consciousness or the end of time, whichever.
You will see the mainstream media jump on this so much, and it's happening now, You see it now with movies and whatever, and little things about UFOs and lots of little adverts with aliens in them, things like that. Little subliminal things they're chucking in, because they're building up to this. They're going to make December the 21st, 2012, like a big deal. They are going to do this. They are going to get on the bandwagon, and they're going to get people all fired up. And it's going to be. I personally think, my personal opinion is, we're just going to all wake up in bigger and bigger and bigger numbers, and we will change it. We will do it. No one's going to come and do it for us. It's down to us. It's us. We will do it.
Waiting for some pseudo parents in whatever particular guise that particular cultural meme has stuffed it into, whether that meme is agendized from the system or not. Whether you choose to think that, aliens are going to land on the planet and either fix everything or destroy everything, or God is going to reappear again, the second coming, and he'll save everyone, the rapture and all that lot, or you think we're approaching singularity and we're all going to ascend to higher level consciousness. All of it is giving up your sovereignty of power to something else that might happen. And that's where I think for me, it exposes that the agenda is deliberately manipulating this whole kind of stuff, because they want people to forever be chasing it will be better then. Everything will be sorted out then. Everything will be fixed by these aliens are going to come and save us. Everything will be sorted once we all ascend to be angel beings. It's that delusionary belief of it will be okay if. Yeah. And while you're chasing the if,
just around the corner, it'll be better.
And it just it promotes inaction. Doesn't it? Promotes inaction. Yeah. You're sitting waiting for it. That didn't come. What's next? We got the dates wrong. Whatever. Yeah. I'm quite looking forward to seeing what will actually be after December 21st.
Well, I think the thing is, I think the seeds are being planted by the people like us and other people in this who think this way, and I think we are the ones that will realise just how powerful we actually are. Yeah, because it's always been denied us our true, energy within us and what we can do, and how we can, become more, symbiotic with the planet, and all this thing, and live in a sort of much better reality. Because this reality isn't mine. I never chose this. I don't want this. This is a disaster. This whole thing. And the 2012 thing is like saying to people who were so downright depressed with things. I mean, there's a lot of people pissed off, there's a lot of people upset with the way things are, but they don't quite understand it all, because it's all just a big muddle, and they bury their head in the sand, and they walk, they're not interested, they don't want to know about anything. They go, shut up, you're going on again. And these sorts of people are just gonna hopefully get it, and they're going to start to sort of go, yeah, exactly, I understand that now. But what's going to happen is the mainstream media are going to pump this up into something that is, like they've done it in the past, with there's been a few events in the past, in recent years.
Change.
The millennium, before that it was, 1984 or whatever it was, and there's been all this sort of thing, and the media will turn this into a circus, and it will try and distract the real issue, the real change that's happening within everybody, and it's that understanding of the real power within us that we've been denied. And the people then will they will just walk away. You just say, I don't need you. Sorry. It's like the guy knocking on the door for the TV license. Who are you? Go away. You're not allowed to ask me any questions. Who are you? It's about getting rid of that fear of authority and control. And the mainstream media have got a lot of people under a bit of a hypnotic, effect at the moment, and they're just being hypnotized by it. And you can see it happening. You can see the seeds being planted in that area, but in our area where we are aware, that is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. More and more people are now seeing the propaganda for what it is on, the TV, the newspapers. They see they're just following someone else's agenda to uphold this nonsense and this reality that we live in right now. And I think, with the 2012 thing, it's just going to get silly, and it's getting silly. It's getting ridiculous. I mean, they're to me, I think we're going to move into this later part of the year, We haven't really had a summer, have we, guys? It's been pretty dismal.
Not
I think
yet.
I think once we see maybe the sun come out and things, people will, I think, want to meet up more. They'll want to start forming even bigger groups and bigger networks, and nothing that's co-opted. We've all seen the Occupy movement, but I think that it was definitely a set-up gig by, I've said this before, the Tavistock Institute. It was like a social experiment. It was drawing people out. It was playing games with people. It was messing with people's heads, basically. And we've all gone through this last, I think, year, ups and downs with how we've sort of reacted to certain things that have happened within the so-called awakening people. I don't want to say truth movement because I don't like that term. I hate that term. It's like, it's putting labels on things again, and I don't want to do labels. It's about, taking the people who are like us, the normal people who are just here on this planet doing our thing and wanting a better place and a nicer life and everything else, and knowing that we're being completely and utterly kept down by these control freaks. And sorry, I'm waffling on now, but 2012 for me personally, I think it's just going to be an even bigger awakening process. And I think it's how we use the site like Flipping the Pyramid, and how we will, more and more people will becoming more disconnected from mainstream. I think that's what we'll see more and more, and it'll get too big. The numbers will become too big, and we'll see what happens.
Is that something that's a result of just the system being too brazen, and or using the same old tricks, or is it because of some metaphysical change in the universe? Do you know what I mean? Because the two are being linked, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like an awakening is being linked to the 2012 event, when
they're doing the
there
awakening.
is none really. When is the awakening more that just people see through the bullshit because it's just really obvious now? It's the same tired old tricks.
I could argue that there is an effect there.
For me, it's all a led propaganda thing, and it's all led to make us more angst in this year. If you look at the way the year started with all the Israel conflict and mass troops and ships building up around Israel and around Iran, and all the pressure in that region, then for me that was the start of them saying, get ready for this year, because we're going to keep the pressure on and ratchet the pressure up. And just recently, as we've had people from the EDL group or BMP come and push their racist rhetoric on us, trying to convince us that this year there's going to be a big race war between these groups. And all that agenda for the 2012 thing, and all the different groups of Christianity thinking that something special is going to happen to them this year, and other faiths thinking it's their special year.
Well, this was
the absolute mayhem in the populace is going to be easy for them to manipulate. And that's what I've seen with the 2012 thing, how everything's pushing to this date time where everyone's going to be frantic and so easily manipulated.
Well, they're not ones to waste an opportunity, are they?
No.
I was just going
for me, they're pushing that opportunity.
Just to add in a couple of things. One is a personal fucking pedantic rant of mine, but also to expand on what you've just been talking about. Yeah, I think I feel it's a combination. There is something much more holistic going on here. There's too many divergent threads that are all coming to the same point, basically. I've talked before about the Terence McKenna type attitude or perspective of us. Eventually, we are going to hit some kind of novelty singularity effect. The sheer technological scientific bell curve that we're going through at the moment could be one aspect of it, but there's lots of other threads and aspects to it that are happening at the moment. But I do also very much agree that a large chunk of that is deliberately created and agendized and propagandized and pushed. And it leads me into my personal pedantic rant that I wanted to mention, which is the classic sort of Mayan 2012 prophecy. And it's like, look, this is one of the subjects that I did do, I spent a fair bit of time looking at because it quite fascinated me. I thought, this is amazing if these people have actually got some kind of knowledge or skill or whatever you want to call it, technology that allows them to plot this stuff over such great vast ages of time. Yeah, I'm really interested. So I read a fair bit about it. And the conclusion I come to is that there is no prophecy. There is no, because I had this argument a few times with different people. They're like, oh, the 2012 prophecy, it's the end of the world, the end of the world. So, no, it's not. They never, ever said anything like that. There's things that could allude to it possibly being something like that. But when you read a bit more about who they were as a culture and a society, the way they lived, the way they interacted with each other, what they thought existence was, it's not an end of everything. It's just another recycling. They use a lot of that classical perspective of the cycles of nature. It's very shamanistic, animistic. So in that respect, they were talking about a change of time, not it would be the end and everything would blow up and you'll all die. That's how it's portrayed by the cultural meme. The cultural meme gave us that film, the 2012 disaster movie with Woody Harrelson in it and whoever else. I can't remember the names because, it just means so much to me. But it was simply, so like, yeah, look, watch it as an action movie. It's a bit of fun. It's just a story. But that's not what the Mayans were talking about. That's not the 2012 prophecy. As I say, there was no specific prophecy written down or passed on by them. They just tried to get across to people. I feel they had a much better grasp of astronomically the great ages of nature that the cycles of nature go through, and they just happened to figure out a way to mark those passages of time. They figured out a technology that allowed them to notice those things and mark them down. And all they're doing is trying to say to later generations, look, this kind of stuff is going to happen during these kind of time periods. You will go through an experience of the way you used to live changes. And what is it that's going on at the moment? The way the globe has, on the whole, been used to living, the style of existence our society has put this world into, is changing rapidly. And that the speed of that change seems to have been accelerating over the last few years. And this, I think, is where the 2 points sort of converge, almost like a head-on crash. Yes, there is stuff. There are many threads, divergent threads from all across the world of different perspectives that all sort of look at around this time during this particular, Gregorian calendar date. But at the same time, the agenda will go, they're all obsessing over that. I tell you what, let's give it an aspect of fear. Oh, it means the end of the world, everyone. And then push them into this pen of fear so they will do exactly what we want and they will ask us to protect them and save them. And I think a lot of the big picture of what we are experiencing at the moment is those people, whatever you want to call them, the elites, the cabal, the devils, whatever. Again, labels don't really matter. We know they're there. We know that all this shit is happening. They want to try and keep control of power. They know it's getting to a point where the number of people turning around and going, we don't agree, this is not right, is increasing. The social unrest is increasing. So they are trying to funnel that social unrest into somewhere that they can control and benefit from. So they give us things like the Occupy movement as a steam valves, as events. And at the same time, it allows them to, as pointed out, by Tavistock and Common Purpose and groups like that, it gives them an opportunity to be messing in people's heads and messing with the way they see reality and basically manipulation. A lot of that is going on, yes, but without going off into too much of an esoteric ramble, I could also argue there is a lot that is, I feel is somewhat undeniable, that there is something actually going on here that goes far beyond our little egocentric, human-centric debates of what we're doing to each other and the rest of the planet. There's, the much, much bigger picture, that galactic, universe-sized picture of natural cycles moving that we are part of. We have physical existences as well as our spiritual existence. It's back to that balance point of view again.
Yeah, absolutely, Cookie. Because I mean, if you get into the research regarding, say, the spirit world, or ghosts or whatever, the way it's been portrayed in in people's minds, you find that you've got a very real phenomenon which has been scientifically proven. You just have to look at the evidence, but it's how far, like you say, balance. How far down that path do you go? You can't spend your entire life over there, because we're here. We're in this reality, and we have to deal with this. We've been totally, like I said, we've all said, manipulated, controlled, indoctrination, education, false history. We've seen it all. It doesn't take much working out, just a bit of common sense to realize that everything in history is basically a false timeline. When you look at archaeological evidence, which is there, it's factual, it's there, but it won't ever be taught in your universities, in your academia world. Will never be taught there. It will only be go to a certain level, and then so it's all there, and basically we're just, we're here to correct that.
The truth is out there.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Bringing another classic meme.
Yeah, and like I say, I've experienced in the spiritual sense that element. That's where I've come into this in the sort of way met with you guys. So it's
isn't that sort of feeding back into? I like to talk about cycles and circles and symbiotic nature of things. Doesn't that feed back into the being sovereign to your own knowledge? So you are actively going out there and looking for the information, looking for the knowledge for yourself. You're contemplating things for yourself. You're not just taking it on face value. You're not just accepting it because it happens to have a particular institutional stamp on the letter to say, look, we've got a crown on the top of our letter, therefore that means we know everything about existence. No, you're actually looking at it and critically thinking about it for yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Not just being spoon-fed.
Because when you get into those realms of the spiritual world, and I know that, there's people who are heavily, heavily involved in that area, and they're very nice people, but, at the end of the day, they're not doing any real sort of changes in their, in their sort of themselves, in their inner world, even though they're doing the spiritual work, there's still issues within them. They haven't, and I've met many of these people when I was doing the work a few years ago, and so I've met quite a few, and I find that when you get too heavily involved in anything, like even the political side, like we say, it's balance. It's about a balance. It's about understanding. Okay, there is actual evidence of life after death. There is. If you go and look at it, it's there. You can talk about the stuff that I talked about on shows in the past when I did the shows, and basically you've got Logie Baird, you've got the inventor of the TV, you've got the names, I can't even remember the guys' names now, but these guys who were into the physics, they weren't even spiritual people themselves at the time, but when they discovered this, they became more and more interested and fascinated with it. And obviously it's those people were demonized within their respected fields. They were sort of like sent away as anything that comes out which can reveal something. But saying that, the more you get involved within that spiritual world, it can suck you in, and you can become very much just there all of the time. What I did, I decided just within myself to come back and go, no, this is not really something that I can spend my entire time in there, if you know what I mean. I have to deal with this reality, and I want to also have, it's people who are here who are important, human beings, people who are around you, the whole thing. It's like, for me, we just are too dismissive as a human race on the planet about people who are outside our families sometimes, and we need to break that barrier down quite a lot. and start seeing more commonality with each other rather than all the differences and all of the petty stuff. And that's what drives people apart. So
can I give I'll try and be quick and not waffle too much. I'll give a somewhat esoteric or metaphysical perspective that I've been contemplating over for the past few years, which sort of, developing in my own head as we go along. In that respect of, we're talking about the balance and the movement of energy, of how we interact in existence, and why is this particular time that we're experiencing now seemingly important, or there seem to be important events and occurrences going on all around us as well as within us. The awakening cliche type thing. People are waking up, all that kind of stuff. To sort of slightly sort of steal a little bit from, again, the McKenna perspective, that singularity process. If you think of that pyramid, I'm trying to circle it back round to what we were talking about in the first place, folks. This is what I do. Nice big circles within circles. That pyramid shape, I find it's very symptomatic of the male energy, the ego type energy that is personified by the physicality of the system that we're talking about. The use of force, the domination, the taking of resources, that lack of compassion, lack of empathy, lack of consideration and care for the other existences that are part of your experience. It's not just you, it's not just humans, it's not just animal life, the whole lot all together. The planet is a living being unto itself as well, in my opinion. In that respect, that male energy goes out into that point, into that pinnacle point of the pyramid. When we pass through that singularity effect, that novelty singularity effect, as McKenna describes it, what happens after that is that basically the pyramid effect reverses. And rather than going up into a fine point, you go from a fine point outwards. So that, if you can sort of take that perspective and think about it in the sense of the way you yourself are experiencing your reality, people waking up, I feel that, as I say, this is still a developing thought for me, it has been for a long time. People waking up is not so much all of a sudden, oh, click, I'm awake, I've realised all the lies, I know everything, everything's going to be great, that magical moment of ascension, and you'll go, oh, this is all just illusion, nothing happens, I float up to become the new Buddha, all that kind of good stuff, But I feel what is actually occurring is, because we are switching the energy flow to the female energy, to the outputting energy, that spiral pyramid shape is going now the opposite direction. So your perspectives, or your comprehensive ability of mind of your own existence, is expanding rather than contracting into a fine point of, oh, this is all reality is, that dogmatic, fundamentalist, materialist view of the only thing that exists is anything you can weigh and measure. You just are a selfish, gene-driven, biological automaton driven by the causal effects of your history, all that kind of, hard, deterministic kind of point of view is now reversing. And people's perspectives, people's blinkers over their eyes, that box that has been put over your eyes is gradually widening and widening and falling away as the energy opens up and you are opening up with it. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So I feel we may have, either we're already going through it now, and, not to diverge into another esoteric ramble about the nature of time and linear time and the existence of now, etc. We are currently, I feel, already experiencing or have just gone through that singularity effect. So what we're witnessing now, what we are part of now, that is being called the awakening, the mass awakening. Look, everybody's wakening up. Oh, look at what's happening in the world. Great social unrest. Everybody's getting up and, going out onto the streets to change their world. It's that widening effect of all of a sudden more and more people are starting to realise that what they've been told is not adding up to what they think reality is, or what they perceive it to be, or want it to be, not just for themselves, but for everybody else, everything else. So all of a sudden, their reality and their comprehension of reality is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So they're going, whoa, what's going on here? And that's the awakening effect. And that's the flipping of the pyramid.
Yes. Yes, I mean, like I say, I mean, I think 2012 and the whole thing is there's so much information. It's a time to find balance, because if you don't find some balance, you're going to go a bit doolally, I think, or a bit over the top, and you're going to see maybe more of this as that date rolls over nearer, because it's nearly May now. How quickly has that gone? You know?
Something I talked about with a friend at least a good year or so ago, the first sort of conversation we had on the topic, not just in general on the topic, I mean about this one particular thing. I said to him, if you were thinking of having some kind of career change in your life, now is probably a good time to train to be a counsellor or a therapist, because come January 2013, there's going to be a hell of a lot of people out there who are really disillusioned of, oh, nothing happened.
Yes.
Oh, we didn't all ascend. Oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
Totally missing the point.
Mass hysteria.
Yes.
That's what I said at the beginning of the year. Prepare yourselves this year for mass panic and mass hysteria.
And this again, for me, anyway, I feel it links in nicely to the kind of stuff we were talking about earlier of how look at this information, but try and see it in a practical way of how it can affect your life and how you can utilize it to help yourself and help others around you. The agenda wants to whip you up into a frenzy. They want you to come out and react violently on the streets, because they've got all the power, they've got all the weapons, they've got all the troops. They will quite happily stomp on you, because then it removes you out of the picture. You will no longer be a problem for the machine, because the machine has made you reveal yourself in an angry fashion, and the machine relies on force. That's what it needs. That's how it operates. It has the dominance of that kind of paradigm of using force. So it will go, oh, look, there's a problem. And just like whack-a-mole, they give us all these things to whip us up into a frenzy. We pop out the hole like the whack-a-mole going, oh, what's going on? They go, whack, 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 whack.
Yes. But I think the true awakening would be people who, like ourselves, who are at the level where you would be able to just not do nothing by not reacting, and by walking away is the way to get true power back, by not agreeing with what's going on, but in numbers that affect it.
Yes, definitely. Like mass non-compliance.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the numbers that are growing. And it starts with, and it has been for a long time. I mean, there's people now with this, internet we have. The communication now is excellent, and we can speak like this, and we can do these things, and we can share ideas. And we've talked about them wanting to shut this thing down and regulate it and stop this kind of information getting out. Websites are being, as we know, some of them have been shut down, or we've seen lots of censorship on the internet. It's not good. But saying that, I think the time for them to really do anything that could stop us doing what we do, they couldn't. We'd always find a way. We'd always find another way, because the numbers are too great now, and the feelings are too strong within people to sort of walk away from, who you are, kind of thing. You wouldn't walk away, because once you know what's going on in the world, that is it. There is no walking away. There is no turning back. We are on this path, on this journey, and that's going to see us through, hopefully, to, I'm hoping it happens in our lifetime. I really do. But I've got a daughter, and I'd like to have a world for her when she gets older that isn't a complete and utter fucking lockdown Orwellian state, because that's where we're heading. Yeah,
if not arguably already there.
Already there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, just been reminded to remind listeners, to anybody out there listening, Friday nights there will normally be At least certainly the music show I read was a fantastic music show, mixing it up. He is a super talented DJ, and he plays some cracking tunes for us. And he's a little bit of a mix-up. A lot of it is what we often call conscious music. It's music has some kind of message or protest lyrics type stuff, however you want to define it. But I like to call it just conscious music because, it's not all just about protesting and stuff like that. It's about empowering yourself, making you, have some realizations for yourself. But yes, every Friday night, hopefully, or almost every Friday night, I read will be spinning some tunes for us. Hopefully, we will have also more shows coming up on a regular basis. That again is one of those things that we're working on. As been said before, this is a work in process. We will be adding more as we go along. Yes, anything else anybody can think of in that respect?
Well, yeah, I'll be hopefully doing a show myself, hopefully, very soon. Probably Mondays, I'm not sure. I might have to jig it around, but yeah, and then anybody else who is listening, if you like what you hear and you like, what we're talking about here and you feel that you've got something to offer, get in touch. You got the website, flippingthepyramid.co.uk. Get in touch. Because there's plenty of people out there who don't get the opportunity. I never thought I'd be doing something like this, a year or so ago. But you've got to get your word out and your voice out. And I think if you talk about your experiences in life as well. If it's all good, it needs people have to speak. And I think that's what this is about. It's about speaking out and getting the word out and letting people know that you're not mad, you're not crazy. This world is really, really a mess, a complete mess.
The world itself already is crazy.
Yeah, and
it's not your fault.
And it's not your fault, exactly. So that's what it's about. And I think I can't wait to do a show. Actually, I'll have to get on very soon. I'm getting itchy to do a show and a good hour rant.
Cool. Just to point out that we will be archiving the shows online to stream. Hopefully within 24, 48 hours of them going out live. And all those links will be provided on the website. So if you don't catch a live show, you won't be missing out. It'll still be there for you.
Yeah, and hopefully we can do more like this as well, where we'll have roundtable podcasts or group discussions, or maybe have some invited guests along, some people for what you'd call like an interview. You know me though, I don't exactly like to do interviews. I just like to have a chat with people. Yeah.
Put them over there and grill them.
Yeah, a nice cozy chat. That's what we like. Yeah, a nice relaxed atmosphere.
But I'd also like to, and we will try and do this, is rebroadcasting previous shows and broadcasting audio that's suitable, obviously, for radio or podcasting. Things that interesting lectures, documentary information, anything and everything that we feel, again, maybe I'm just talking from my own personal point of view, I feel that is of some kind of value to people.
Absolutely.
Just put it out there again.
And, if listeners come across something they feel is important, needs to be heard, by all means pass that on.
Yes, definitely. So, where are we now then? I think we've covered all the topics we originally set out to want to mention. We only picked a few topics just to try and keep it easy flowing for now. Hopefully we haven't gone off too far in any one particular direction. I know I've got a habit for doing that, but that's just what I do.
All right, then. I think that about wraps it up for this evening. Thank you for everybody for joining us here on the round table. We had, I think, 7 in tonight. We had Stop the Rot, Nick, Hairy Cookie Monster, Red Eye, Jedi, I Red, and we had Rainbow listening in as well. And my name is Blue Bus, and I'll be doing a show hopefully very soon, like I've just mentioned. And thank you for stopping by. And I'll just end with this. Together we are flipping the pyramid.
This message was brought to you by Flipping the Pyramid. www.flippingthepyramid.co.uk